So if you've got an office that's very heavy participation and the fee schedules aren't very competitive, is that a red flag for a potential buyer? So if you've got an office that's very heavy participation and the fee schedules aren't very competitive, is that a red flag for a potential buyer?
You mean currently?
Yeah. Like, say I'm ready to sell. I've been doing this a long time, older dentist, but I haven't negotiated my fees in 10 years. I'm still operating pretty heavy PPO. What
Well,
does that look like?
well, the bottom line is it's an interesting. Again, it may not seem logical to think this way, but if that's the case, and the practice is still has a good amount of collections and has good cash flow,
Hmm.
that's exactly what the DSOs want.
That's interesting. See, and that it doesn't sound, it's so counterintuitive, right?
Right.
Because you would think having high fee schedules, but it's predictable. The hygienist or the hygiene is busy, like you said, and patient base is not a ton of attrition. So you're saying that that actually is a pretty attractive
Yeah,
office.
because that's one of the first things that they're going to be able to do to streamline. I mean, they're going to look at the supply and say, well, we can cut that 2% from where you are. That
Hmm.
immediately increases, I mean, overnight, it increases the EBITDA and the value of the practice they just acquired. And they're going to renegotiate. And, they're already leveraged. And now that they're a group, they're going to renegotiate with the insurance companies. And you're now going to have a much better schedule. And
Hmm.
that immediately is a big thing. Plus, from a marketing perspective, they take over marketing. So they want to market as a group to more potential patients, and those are insurance patients. As a matter of fact, ironically, we have a harder time bringing a fee for service practice, which you would think would be the opposite, but
Yeah.
we have a harder time bringing fee for service to a DSO because they're like, well, we have to then market almost separately for this practice to get fee for
Hmm.
service patients in. And they look at it like there's much less control. They don't control, and when I say control, I don't mean in a bad way. It's like they can't implement them into a system if it's a fee for service practice. That's
That's so
completely based on the
interesting.
dentist.
So interesting. Now, are there DSOs where that, DSO just being the general term, are there companies looking to acquire only fee for service practices, like maybe making that a niche of its own?
I have always hoped that that would be the case because we still have some really good fee for service. Now we have had some fee for service practices that are good enough overall that the DSO is like, we want the practice. But yeah, it would be really nice. I mean, I've always felt that. I don't know of any. There might be a couple out there, but I
Hmm.
don't really know of any that are only focused on that. I
Yeah.
mean, you've got fee for service, you've got the insurance practices, and you got Medicaid, and most of them don't even look at Medicaid at all. But
Yeah.
some of the DSOs can tolerate a percentage. If
Hmm.
it's, let's say, 2 to 10% Medicaid, they might consider it. Otherwise, some will say if it has 1%, we're not even looking at it. But generally speaking, they want insurance. There's always going to be some fee for service. So the ideal thing for a DSO is like an 80-20 mix or an 85-15 mix, something along those
80,
lines. As
80 insurance.
Yeah, right,
Okay.
correct. And if
See, and that is so, I think the current thinking right now is increasing the value of my practice is by getting out of network, is by, increasing my fees. And so there's lots of, I mean,
well, it
depending on
certainly
what.
can be, as you know, because you know that certain they are losing money with certain schedules. So the
Absolutely.
bottom line is there's no question that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I said, I mean, it really there are you have to look at it from both sides, I think.
Hmm.
But it's like you said. Well, what if it's an older dentist that haven't renegotiated the fee schedule and haven't
Yeah.
increased their fees in 10 years? Well, it's like the same thing with equipment, right? Does that mean if their equipment's old, they're not going to be attractive? Well, no, because if their equipment's old, but some equipment, I've seen equipment that's 20, 25 years old that is spotless and very functional and
Hmm.
has been renovated and has certainly fine. You don't just go and invest 150,000 to redo 5 operatories and
Right.
think that's going to just blow my practice value out of proportion. It doesn't work like that either. So yeah, I do think they should be increasing their fees every so often.
Hmm. Yeah.
But
No.
in some cases, there are certain plans that maybe they need to get rid of. But generally speaking, the groups want insurance based practices. Yes.
I'm so glad to hear you say that, because you know how it is, like when you hear it from your parents or your husband or wife, like it becomes like background noise. So I'll say
Really?
this to dentists. Yeah, yeah, So then I say this to dentists, and they're going. So I'm so glad to have another expert say
Yeah.
this, right? So that I can say, no, no, it's true. Tony said. So that's where I'm going to point them. I'm going to clip this part here.
I'm in
and
trouble.
have it ready to play. So, would you like to hear more? Follow the link for the full episode.